Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I hope that you guys enter 2025 with so much joy, health, and happiness. I am super excited for this year. Oh my God, it's been a wild year last year, filled with sickness, filled with uncertainty, instability, a lot of tears, a lot of medical things happening. So I was so ready to say goodbye to 2024. And so far, 2025 has been great. It's been so great. I have so much stuff I want to talk about. So I am so excited for this year. I hope that you are too. Welcome back to my podcast. Welcome back to my channel, my channel. Welcome, 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 welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back. I am so happy to welcome you guys. We're going to kind of like turn back the clock because we're gonna go back to the Growing Up Congolese podcast because although I have changed, I've done a couple of series with different titles, like on Spotify, like I am still Growing Up Congolese. On YouTube, I've kind of changed my name to the Congolese Wanderer. I chose that name because y'all know I wander a lot, but I just wander like a traveler because I also want to talk about like my traveling. I just wanted to make it something more inclusive to kind of like encapsulate everything that I talk about, because even on this podcast I talk about like multiculturalism, so that is wandering through different cultures and everything. So that's why I thought that name would be perfect. But we are starting the new year with our main name, which is Growing Up Congolese, with our main podcast. For those who are new, I started this podcast as a way to kind of like, release some stress, release some frustrations, talk about things that I was interested in, talk about like, how I view the world through this sort of multicultural lens between my Congolese identity and my American identity, and mixing that with all the cultures that I've encountered throughout my 27 years on this earth and everything. So Growing Up Congolese is just talking about, it's social commentary, but from my perspective. Again, for those who don't know, I grew up in multiple countries. I've lived more than 9 lives. So Growing Up Congolese is just a discussion, a social commentary about everything. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of summaries from old episode, because over the vacation, over the break, over the holidays, I've realized that I have new followers, I have new listeners. So in order to get everybody caught up, I just decided to kind of like go back to how it all started by talking about me, by doing social commentary on cultures, on traditions and everything. So for those who've been here since day one, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know I promised consistency, and 2025 is that year for me for consistency. Although my voice is a little bit weird, I am battling a cough. But I'm feeling a lot better. Like when I tell you 2024 was a tough year, it was a very tough year. Like I wanted to do so much, but my body, my health, everything was just declining, so I couldn't do it. So I apologized, but thank you for still rocking with me. Thank you guys for clicking on this podcast on Spotify and on YouTube. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So today, I wanted to start off by talking about a topic that I've already talked about on this channel, which is the dowry. But I wanted to talk about it from a different lens, right? So this episode will be titled The Consequences of a Dowry. Sorry. So I came up with this episode because a friend of mine just got married, and my American friends, when they get engaged or they're proposed to, it's just an engagement. There's no problems, two people meet each other, they like each other. He proposed, she says yes, and then they plan a wedding, right? And I was like, wow, I wish I could do that, because as an African, especially as a Congolese, I cannot just get proposed and that will be the end of the story, because we have a tradition called the dowry, right? In African cultures, the men have to pay your dowry. And The dowry historically was a symbol of gratitude, and it was a symbol to demonstrate to the parents that you are capable to take care of your wife, right? Sorry, like I had to stop recording because I needed to cough. But yeah. So it was a symbol of gratitude. It was your way to be like, wow, thank you guys for raising this wonderful daughter that I met. She's wonderful. She's great. I think she's going to make a wonderful wife, a great mother to my children. And I can see myself being with her long term and everything. So that's what the dowry was supposed to represent. It was a way to show gratitude. And this is actually not far-fetched because it's also in the Bible, right? When Jacob went to marry Rachel, because that was the wife that he loved, he proposed a dowry, right? So he said to Laban, his uncle, who also became his father-in-law, that I will work for you 7 years for my wife, right? So the dowry is a symbol that a man demonstrates to kind of like, to prove himself to his in-laws that he's capable to take care of his wife. He's capable, like he's thankful that they raised her. It's a way to say thank you, and to be married, right? And then, but it's not that simple because different traditions have different requirements, right? And in African cultures, we, like back then, way back then, the dowry could have been like, a bag of salt. It could have been fish. It could have been corn. It could have been, I don't know, like rice, it was just something that you were supposed to give your in-laws as a symbol of gratitude and as a way to show that their daughter is not going into a bad hand. Because the worst thing African parents want is to give you his daughter and for her to come back skinny, for her to come back asking them for food and money. Because as a man, you're supposed to be the provider. You were supposed to already be equipped to have a wife. You don't just get married for the sake of getting married. Like, marriage requires responsibilities, right? So as a man, when you decide to be married, the parents, the traditional parents will ask you, like, are you ready for marriage? And when you hear an African parent ask you, are you ready for marriage? It translates to, are you capable of taking care of my daughter financially, right? Are you going to be the provider? Because in my house, I provided food, I provided clothes, I provided shelter. So am I giving her to you? Like, are you going to be able to kind of are you going to be able to replace that, right? Because me as a father, like I've been doing that. Like as a husband, you are taking my place, right? So as a father, like I was providing for her. And then you as a husband, you have to take my place as the provider. So can you do that, right? So a man looking to marry have to be capable to take care of his wife, right? So that's why parents will ask the potential son-in-law, like, are you ready? So I found that in my culture, the Luba culture, when the potential son-in-law first come to meet the parents, you entering the home and giving money is already a dowry. So in the new modern Congolese culture, they like to do, the guy comes in and then, he asks for the daughter, like he presents himself, like in French, we call it présentation, right? He comes and he introduces himself and say, hi, my name is this. I saw your daughter at the market, so I saw her at church. She appealed, like, to my senses or whatnot. And so I'm here to ask, for when you guys and your family can welcome us into your home. So they do like a presentation, right? And then when you and your family leaves, the daughter will come, the daughter will bring the list, like the dowry list from her parents to you, and then you and your family are gonna, like, work through it. Like if they ask for a lot of money, you guys can negotiate and stuff like that. But in my tradition, because I am Luba Swahili, that step does not exist. So if a man comes in, so I am talking to somebody and let's say we discuss marriage and I tell him, okay, since we're considering marriage and everything, then I will go talk to my mother, right? Be like, hey mom, like I've been seeing this guy for like a year or so and he's responsible. Like, I give my mother all the 411 that she needs and everything. And then my mom would be like, okay, tell him the day that he will come, right? So the day that he will come, he should already come with his family, and and he should already be prepared for his dowry. So let's say my man goes to visit my family, right? The first time he comes into the home, and then he's like, hi, my name is this is what I do. Your daughter, like, she's the one that I want to be with and everything. Whatever he gives my mother that day, that's my dowry. That means that another man cannot come into my mother's house. I can never introduce my mother to another man, because my mother already ate the money of the guy that I'm talking to, right? So even if that man give my mother $10 and she takes it, that's my dowry. So we don't have a minimum or maximum of how much a man should give, right? So whatever he has, and now they leave the onus on the man. So on the man is like, you have to honor me, right? So how do you see my value? How do you value me? So if my man gives $10, I'm gonna fight him. Let's just be real. I'm fighting him. Like, I'm fighting him. I am fighting that man. Because of course, he's not supposed to give millions and stuff like that. No, that's not what I'm saying. But come on, in this day and age, people will look at you like $10, but it's not uncommon, right? Because like I said, the dowry is supposed to be a symbol. I know one of my cousins, when they were about to marry her, my uncle asked for $1, right? So again, it's supposed to be a symbol. But when he asked for $1, a lot of people view it as him not wanting my cousin to get married, right? So people were talking and everything, and the guy, even though they asked him for $1, he came with a good amount, right? He came with the amount to honor his wife. So even though he was only asked $1, he wanted to honor his wife, so he did not give the $1. He gave way more than the $1, right? So yeah, so we don't have a set limit. We in my culture, we don't ask for it, but you have to, because the dowry goes to the father, right? It goes, the amount goes to the father, and you buy the mother, I don't know, Nigerian call it lapa, we call it liputa. So it's what like African women used to make African clothing. So like the fabric, right? So that's what you give the mother. Back in the day, you would give the dad like a shotgun, right? Because he used to go hunt to feed his daughter. So giving him a shotgun is like telling him like, I am replacing the old shotgun that you used to go hunt for food for your daughter. So I'm giving you a new one because now I'm the one that's going to be providing for her, right? So I'm replacing what you used to have. Now, traditionally, in my culture, they used to give a goat, right? So they will give a goat. So the day that the man will come to marry you, of course, like I said, like we only do it once. There's no present. Like the day that he's doing presentation is the day that he's also giving his things, right? So before he comes in, he has already been prepared, right? So he will bring a goat. So he'll bring one goat. So when he gives the father one goat, the day of the dowry, because the most important marriage in our culture is the traditional marriage. When he will give the goat, he can take his wife, right? You go with your husband and everything, and on your first night, if he found out that you were a virgin, the next day he will send another goat, and that goat will be for your mother as a way to thank her because she raised you right, because she made sure you were well kept, just to keep it simple, right? But if you were not a virgin, there would not be a second goat, right? So your mother would not receive her goat, so it will only be the goat of the father, right? So those are just the basics, right? So dowry was created as a way to show right? It's biblical. The man is supposed to be the provider, so him giving the dowry is a sign of gratitude to your family. And is a sign that he's taking responsibility for you. Now, I know in Indian culture, the woman is the one that pays for the dowry, but child, please. Rachel did not pay Jacob for the dowry, okay? So I'm not paying no man's dowry, okay? But in our culture, it's the man that pays it, right? But there are consequences to the dowry. And so that's where our episode will talk about, right? In a lot of, and I'm just going to specifically just kind of pull this from being Luba and being Congolese. I'm not going to generalize it to all African culture because this is not although I know some of other cultures, I'm just going to kind of like keep it simple to mine just as an example, right? So I did not grow up with my father, right? I grew up with an absentee father. And for kids like me who grew up with an absentee father, there are two consequences, right? So as I'm thinking about settling down and getting married, right? These are the stuff that I'm thinking about because, like I said, like my American friends just got engaged and now they're planning a wedding. I cannot just plan a wedding like that because our dowry is also tied to spirituality in a way. So, for example, I had an acquaintance that I know. She married here, and her family did not ask for the dowry, right? And although her family did not ask for the dowry, her immediate family is not asked for the dowry. Her family back home was very upset about it. So they decided to get into spirituality and kind of like block her ability to have children. And I know it sounds archaic and it sounds weird and crazy, but things like this does happen because when the father gets the dowry, he's supposed to share with his family. Your mother's supposed to share with her family. So because African cultures are very like, communitarian, so the kid does not just belong to the father and the mother, the kids belong to the whole tribe, the whole clan, so you belong to your uncle, your aunts, your cousins and everything, right? So my dowry my father will gonna have to share with his siblings, with people that I don't even know and I would never see in my life and everything. Like I barely see him, so I definitely don't know his family, and that's sort of what I wanted to talk about. Those are the stuff that I'm thinking about, right? Because I did not grow up with my father around me, but because he married my mom, he has to eat my dowry. So in our culture, the only times a father does not eat a dowry is in two cases. If he did not marry the mother, so he did not pay for my mother's blood, right? So technically, if a father does not marry the woman or the child is born like out of wedlock, he has no spiritual right over the child. You know how the Bible talks about kids have to respect their parents or if they don't, they can be cursed and everything. A father who did not just marry your mother, because you can marry the woman by giving the dowry, but for men who don't marry the girls, they still have to pay for the blood for the kids to belong to them. That's sort of like our tradition, right? So if the father does not marry or does not pay for the blood that the woman shed to give birth to your kid, you have no right to the dowry. You cannot then come and claim like, oh yeah, it's my dowry, it's my rights and everything. No, that dowry should go to the mother's family because she was the one that raised her kids. So you have no right to those kids. So the dowry in our culture is also for the men to also get rights to their kids, right? So to have a say over the kid's life. So a father who was not there, for example, if my father did not marry my mother and he was an absentee father, he has no spiritual rights over me. He can never go to curse me. His curses will be nullified by the blood of Jesus, okay? He has no spiritual power over me because I don't belong to him because he did not marry my mother, right? So that's one example. But if they did marry your mother, like in my case, right, I have to go look for my father the day that my man wants to marry me. Like I have to go look for him and be like, hey, I'm getting married. So you have to make the list for what you want for my wedding. which is so effed up, right? Because his only right to the dowry is because he did not pull out. Like, because he did not pull out, then he has the right to take your dowry. And a lot of kids in my position are always like, no, he did not raise me, he did not do this, he did not do that, so I should not go look for him for my dowry and everything and all of that. But then it's like, if he doesn't get his dowry and he curses you, it will reach you. It will get to you. You know? So that's why you have a lot of people suffer from like infertility, and they go to church and everything. And even when they go to church, the pastors will be like, well, did your man pay for your dowry? And then you'd be like, no, because my father did not raise me, because he did not do this, he did not do that, so I refuse for him to get his dowry. The pastor will be like, you know what, just give him his dowry, and I promise you'll get a baby. And then I know somebody who did that. So when it happened, the next month she got pregnant and she held her baby, right? So that's one consequences, right? When you have a deadbeat father and because they married your mom and they forgot to pull out and they decided to be butt heads, they still have the right to the dowry. But the other consequence is, girl, when that man gives your dowry, you cannot leave him. So in our cultures, women do not ask for divorce. Women do not ask for divorce because you did not marry him, he married you. So the dowry also gives the men the power to be like, even if I'm being a butthole to you, you cannot leave me. You cannot leave me. And in the Luba culture, we have something called Chibau. Now, Chibau is not all Luba people who practices it, but it's a subsect, a subculture within the Luba culture of people that practice it. So what is Chibau? So as legend has it, there was this girl who was very beautiful. Because, child, let me tell you something. Luba girls, we're pretty. We are pretty. We are smart, beautiful, loyal. We are great, okay? So don't you ever let no one tell you. And I'm sure if this man hears me say that, he'll be like, yeah, and they're also crazy. But that's not the part of this story, okay? We are great in everything, okay? We are great. Even though some people can say we're crazy, we are great people. We are great mate to be with, right? So she was a very beautiful girl and she got married, right? And then, so back to my story. Sorry, guys, I had to stop and cough, so I apologize. But yeah, so she got married to her first husband, and that husband loved her, adored her, paid for her dowry and stuff like that, right? So one time she went to the market, and then another man saw, and another man, guys, I'm so sorry, y'all. Another man sees her, and then he falls in love too. She's like, wow, such a beautiful woman needs to be my wife, right? So he goes to the father. So the second person, he goes to the father, and then he tells the father, he's like, oh, I saw your daughter. She's so beautiful. I have to marry her. That's the woman that I'm looking for. That's my wife, right? And now, because the father realized that his daughter was very beautiful and she was attracting a lot of men, he accepts the dowry of the second man, even though he already accepted the dowry of the first husband, right? So he marries her off to the second guy without her knowledge, right? Because he was being greedy. So one time he tells the girl to come visit. Now, in our culture, when you're married, like, you're supposed to forget your family's house, right? Like, you can go there for like holidays and everything, but you should not stay like, for 2 weeks just out of nowhere, like for no reason, like he's not sick, nothing. Yeah. So he invites his daughter to come visit him, and then he told the first husband, like, oh no, I'm sick. She's gonna come and take care of me while I'm sick. So unbeknown to her, right? So she's thinking her father is sick. So she goes back home to see her father. Then the father's like, oh, actually, I'm not sick. I just want to let you know that another man came here. He liked you and everything. And he gave me a dowry for you. And the daughter was like, wait, what? But I'm already married. That you're supposed to, tradition says, you're supposed to only take the dowry one time, right? And it's like, oh no, but you're so beautiful. Like, are you gonna finish all your beauty like on one man? This man has more money, he's gonna take care of you and everything, blah 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 blah. Just go see him, right? She goes to the second husband. The first husband doesn't even know. So to the first husband, the wife is home with her ill father, right? So she goes to the second man's house, and when you're married, they have to consummate the marriage. He sleeps with her because for him she was single. He did not know that she was already married, right? So the first husband, it's been 2 weeks, then it's been a month. So he comes to the father's side of the family, to the father family, and say, it's been like a month, I have not seen my wife, what's going on? And then the second husband comes with a wife, and he's like, and then the first husband's like, well, that's my wife. And then the second husband's like, well, that's my wife. And then they call the elders, and then they explain to the elders what happened, right? Now the elders say, okay, the father made a mistake. One of you have to let go of the wife. So if you don't love her, let her go. They both loved her. They both did not want to let her go. So like, no, she's too beautiful. She's my wife. I pay my dowry first. The second husband argued, like, I didn't even know she was married. The dad told me she was single. I gave a lot of dowry for her and everything. So because neither of them wanted to let the other one have her, the elders decided to kill her. So since both of you don't want to give her up, how about she does not exist? So they buried her alive. She was buried alive. They dug a hole, they put her inside, and then they buried her alive. But as she was going down, she said, may this be the result of any woman who cheats knowingly or unknowingly on her husband. So that's where Chibawu came from. So in our culture, if my men give my parents a dowry for me, they are not supposed to take any other man's dowry unless my man decides to divorce me. And divorcing me doesn't mean that he just go to court and file paperwork, because when you get married, you guys get spiritually connected. So because my mother ate his money, right? Because money ties people, right? So they have to give him back his money. So let's say my husband gives them like $10,000 for my dowry, right? $10,000 plus the goats, plus the jewelry and all of that. So let's say like altogether it was maybe $15,000, right? My parents, when he decides that he doesn't want me anymore and send me back to my parents have to give. Now, here's the thing. Let me take it back. If I was with my husband for a long time and I gave him children, my parents do not have to pay him back his dowry. So in French, we will say, il a consumé son argent. So that means like, we're even. He gave $15,000. I gave him 3 kids and all of that. I cooked for him. I cleaned for him. So he doesn't get his money back, right? But if I wasn't doing anything, like I was a lazy wife, I did not give him children, then my family will have to pay him back his dowry. And that way we will break like our connection. And then, so if there's another man who wants to come marry me, then my family will accept that dowry. Does that make sense? Now, he has to accept to take his money back, because some African men are wicked. Oh, African men are wicked. Some African men will be like, I don't want you, but I want you to be tied down, right? So they'll refuse to take the dowry so that you can be tied down. So if you marry a Luba and then he refuses to take his dowry back and you're tied to him, if you go get married to another man or you go sleep around with another man, you will die. If his family practices Chibawu, because like I said, not all Luba cultures does Chibawu, but if his family practices Chibawu, you will die. If you don't die, that husband will die. And every other man that you lay with will die. So yeah. So in my culture, I have to be very so. My mom already told me before you bring a man home to my house, make sure you are sure. Make sure you are sure, because you're not just tying. Because I feel like Western culture, we just view marriage as like, yeah, we like each other and then that's it. The day that we don't like each other, peace out. But traditional African culture is like, till death do us apart. They mean that shit. May God forgive me for cussing. They mean it. They really mean to death do us apart. That's why when you go to an African wedding and they're doing those ceremonies and all of that, and you like, oh, he's so cute and everything, they're like, this girl is being tied. She's being tied down. Tied down emotionally, physically, and spiritually. You are tied to that person. You are very... So the dowry also in our culture really ties you, where it's like, you just can't leave because he pissed you off. You have to work it out. You have to work it out. And if that man is a bastard, you have to pray that he likes you enough to divorce you. And if you give him children, you don't have to pay his money back. But if you don't give him children and he has because a lot of men be like, yeah, well, she did not give me an heir and all of that, so I'm gonna kick her out and make her life miserable because I'm not gonna let her go give another man an heir because she did not give me an heir. Child, you're gonna need Jesus. You are gonna need Jesus. So that's why when my American friends ask me about marriage, I'll be like, girl, marriage is not the way I view marriage is not the same way you view marriage, because you can leave. And especially when you're dating an African, you're just like, that's why I'd be asking questions about their families. I'd be asking like, how is your family? How do you guys operate? Because for us, when we get married, we really get married, right? You're integrating not just a family but a culture. You're integrating a tradition. You are integrating their mode of thinking, their mode of practicing, their belief system, right? So when you're thinking about marriage, for me as an African, I just can't be like, oh yeah, everything is flower and roses. I have to really get down to the nitty gritty, because I'm just really like, okay, because this is my entire life, And so when I'm evaluating an African man, I have to like literally pray to God and be like, God, please guide me, because I do not want to make... And it's funny because although people always tell me I need to marry a white man, most of the guys I've ever talked to romantically have always been African. There's a sense of peace there for me, right? There's, even if they don't have to be Congolese, like the guy that I'm talking to right now, he's not Congolese at all, right? So they don't have to be Congolese, but as long as they're African, because there's just like this sort of like understanding that we have. Of course, our cultures are very different and everything, but that cultural understanding, because they have to understand where I'm coming from, and I understand where they're coming from, right? So having those similarities in traditions, we don't just take marriage like lightly. Like, I know the guy that I'm talking to, he won't take marriage lightly, and I'm not taking marriage lightly, right? So that kind of gives me the assurance of like, it'll be hard to get a divorce, because one thing that I really don't want to do is get a divorce. Like, divorce and separations and stepchildren is very prevalent in my family, and that's something that I don't want. I want to break that generational curse. I want to have a unified family with a husband and all my kids belonging to one man and everything. So that's one thing that I pray to God for. So because I pray to God for that, I don't want to be in a situation where I enter something and then we don't get along, and then we get a divorce, and then my kids have to 3 days here, 4 days here, whatever. And then it's just going to be like, a total mess that I do not want. I've been through that, and I don't want my kids to go through that. And that's something that I pray to God to prevent for my life, right? And here's the funny thing, right? In my culture, because the man paid for the dowry and the kids belong to him, if you and the husband separate, the kids do not go with the mother. They stay with the father. because like some tradition view single women as incapable of raising kids, right? Because they see that they feel like kids should be in a unified family. So like even when they talk about spirituality, they say that, people who do witchcraft and everything, they can easily attack kids and get kids who are in separate household than kids who are raised in unified family, right? So if, knock on wood, that it would not happen, but if there was a situation where my mate and I got together and then 20 years from now we don't see it for each other anymore and then we get a divorce, the kids are going to be in his care. And so I'm going to be the one getting visitation rights, which is sort of like the opposite of what goes on in the United States, right? Because they say the kid belongs to the mother and everything because she's the primary parent. But no, in our cultures, the primary parent is the father because the kids belong to him. They bear his name, right? So then it's like I have to leave my kids with him, and that's why a lot of women, even in like in villages and all that, even when the men mistreat them and beat them up and everything, they don't leave because they're like, I don't want another woman to come raise my kids. Because when the woman leaves, she leaves alone. She came alone, she leaves alone. Those kids don't belong to her, right? So she leaves alone. So you had women back in the day be like, yeah, I'm not gonna, regardless of how bad my marriage is, I'm gonna stay here for my kids. Hopefully my kids are gonna grow. Like I want to see my kids grow because I don't want them to be raised by another woman. Like I don't want another woman to come mistreat my kids, the evil step parents and all of that. So they will stay in miserable marriages for the sake of the kids. And a lot of women, even if they leave, they will not get remarried for the hope that, their husband will ask them back so that they can be the one to raise their kids. I never really thought about this until recently, but when my parents separated, I really wanted my mother to get remarried. I really did. I wanted my mother to find somebody and all of that. And my mother never remarried because of us. She did not want somebody to come in and mistreat us, talk to us badly, because we can go and open the fridge and eat as we want and everything. But when a man comes in and he's the breadwinner and he's not our dad, there can be a sentiment of like, let's not eat too much because we are not eating like our dad's money, right? Because we're not his kid, right? So my mother wanted us to kind of like have that liberty to live in our home, in our home without like walking on eggshell. And I'm sure she could have met somebody who would like us and everything, but there was like, she was always afraid of like having tensions, so she never did it. So she waited for us to grow up and everything. And now I pray that, before she dies and everything, now that like I'm out of the house, my brother is also like, living his life, she can have somebody to spend like the rest of her life with. And that's a sacrifice that she made that I am very grateful for, because I'm sure it was hard on her to just be a single mother. But that's a sacrifice that she made. So yeah, guys, what do you think? I know I told you guys a lot of stuff, but what do you think? Because and I wanted to share this with you because this is the stuff that I'm starting to think of. I cannot believe I am at a place in my life where I'm thinking about marriage, because I don't know if I ever shared this with you guys, but it's just been like, it's not that I never wanted to be married. Like I always knew that, a woman is created for a man and everything, like marriage is, it's in French, on this, c'est une institution divine. It's a divine institution, right? Created by God. It was the first institution that was created and everything. So it's not that I never wanted to get married. I did. But I feel like I am those people who still think that they're a kid. Like, I always see myself as a kid, So I turned 27 like 2 months ago, which feels weird to even think about. But yeah, so it was interesting because like, I don't know, for some reason this year, when it was New Year's and without even thinking. And I swear to God, I wasn't even thinking about it, right? I was not. So when it was January 1st and everything, I'm praying. I found myself saying, I want to be engaged by the end of the year. I was like, and when I said it, I opened my eyes. I was like, wait, what did I just say? So I'm just like, wait, me started to think about marriage. I always felt like marriage was for grown-ups, and since I still think of myself as a kid, I was just like, wait, where does that come from, right? But yeah, so it's so interesting because these are now I'm thinking about. I'm just like, ooh, Lord, if I'm still dating Africans, I have to go through this, and these are the stuff that I have to think about and everything. So yeah. So I hope you learned something new. If you have similar thing in your culture, please write it down, share with us. Let's have a discussion. It's nice to get back. I'm so happy that you clicked on my channel. Have a good day. Bye.